Hello and welcome back. This is going to be lesson 4, which is going to be on multiplication. But before we get into that, let's look at our thinking question from lesson 3. And it was, how do you know when you've found all the factors for a number? Well, depending on what strategy you use, that can differ. But for me, I use the rainbow strategy. And that means I know I have found all the factors when I get to the middle of the rainbow and I hit a number that I have already used or have already written down. If I'm asking myself, what does 6 times what equals 18, and I've already put down a 6, then I don't need to ask myself that because I'll just be finding duplicates. So as I said, we're going to be doing multiplication today. This is a 2-part lesson. So we are looking at multi-digit multiplication, and this is part 1. And we're going to be learning 2 different strategies. The strategy we're going to learn today might take a little bit longer to actually do out. But the reason we're doing it first is because it's going to help you to understand the strategy, the traditional algorithm that we're going to use tomorrow. So it's important that you understand it and that you go through it today. So it's also possible that you're going to be learning a strategy that you've never heard of before. And that's okay too. It's important to learn different ways to do things, and then you can choose the way that works best for you. So try doing it the way I teach you today and the way I teach you in lesson 2 or part 2 of this lesson. But after that, if it doesn't work out for you, use what works for you. You need paper and pencil today, per usual. And first, before we even get into the actual multiplication algorithm that I'm going to go over with you today, I'd like to go over ballpark estimates because that's something that's really important in multiplication. There's a lot of room for error when you're multiplying multi-digit numbers, which multi-digit just means it's going to be something like 42 times 13 or 354 times 98. It just means it's not going to be something as simple as 6 times 2. So a ballpark estimate is important because it tells us an answer that's near the actual answer. It is not the actual answer. When you find a ballpark estimate, you are not finding the real answer. You are finding an answer that is close to the real answer. That way, when you get the actual answer, you can ask yourself, is this close to my ballpark estimate? If it is, great. If not, something probably went wrong somewhere. So what you do to find a ballpark estimate is you find 2 numbers, make these numbers easier to work with. So 42 times 13, I have no idea what that's going to be off the top of my head. But 40 is really close, or 42 is really close to 40. Okay, so 40 times 13 is pretty close to 10. I know 40 times 10 off the top of my head because it's just 2 numbers that are simple because they have a 0 in the ones place. So I'm going to do 4 times 1 is 4. And then I have to add on 2 zeros. So my ballpark estimate is 400. Let's see if it works. 42 times 13 equals 546. Not bad. That's pretty close. I know that that's probably correct because it's close to my ballpark estimate. Now let's try the next one. Go ahead and pause the video and try and find 2 numbers. Think of 2 numbers that are close to 354 and 98. Don't solve it though. I chose 350 times 100. So I can split this apart by saying 1 times 35 equals 35. And then I still have to add on these 2 zeros and this 0. Don't forget that one. So that's 3 zeros. So my ballpark estimate is that the answer will be close to 35,000. Let's see. $34,692. That's extremely close to my ballpark estimate. Extremely close. So I'm pretty confident that that answer is correct. Plus I use a calculator, so I know it's correct. The method that we're going to go over today is the partial products method. And it's important to know the definition of products, which, as we went over in the last lesson on multiples and factors, A product is the answer of two numbers multiplied together. So whenever you multiply two numbers together, two or more, the answer is your product. So partial product tells me we're going to be finding parts of the product, so parts of the answer, and then putting them together to get the actual answer. First, we're going to do our ballpark estimate. So pause your video and you're going to find two numbers that are close to 71 and 3 that are easier to multiply, and then multiply them. Pause your video and do that now. My ballpark estimate, I changed 71 to 70, and I kept the 3 the same because that's going to be pretty easy to multiply. 7 times 3 is 21, and I just had to add a 0. So 210 is my ballpark estimate. I'm actually going to erase that and write my answer down here just so we don't get confused. So we'll remember that for later. In order to do a partial products problem, we're going to pull apart our numbers. So we know that 71 can pull apart into 70 plus 1. It's made up of 70 and 1. 3 can't be pulled apart. It's just a 3. So now I've pulled apart my numbers. Now with partial products, what you do is you multiply each part of this number by each part of this number. So what that looks like, if I put it into a table to keep organized, I'm going to put our 70 here and the 1 here to represent 71, and then I'm going to put my 3 right here. Now I just have to multiply each box, the two numbers that align with it. So 3 times 70 is 210, and 3 times 1 is 3. Now both of those are parts of the product. They're parts of the answer, but they aren't the complete answer by themselves. When we put them together though, they will make the full answer. So if I add 210 plus 3, I get 213. And that's my answer. It's as simple as that. And that's incredibly close to my ballpark estimate, so I'm pretty confident that I'm correct. So here's another one. This one's going to be a little bit trickier because we have more numbers to deal with. However, it should be a piece of cake. Let's pause your video and do your ballpark estimate first though. My ballpark estimate was 600 because 589 is really close to 600 times 6 equals 3,600. Now I'm going to pull apart my numbers. 589 pulls apart into 580 and 9. 6 I can't pull apart, it's just the one number. So I'm just going to put that there. Pause your video and draw this diagram on your paper along with the numbers where they belong. Okay, so now we're ready to multiply. So we're going to start by multiplying 6 times 500, then we'll do 6 times 80, and then we'll do 6 times 9 because we're matching each box and multiplying them. Pause your video and multiply all of those numbers. Your 3 partial products should be 3,480 and then 54. But these are just parts of our product, so we have to add them together now. 3,000 plus 480 plus 54. Pause your video and add those together. You can use whatever method you'd like to add them together as long as you get the correct answer. I just happened to use the traditional way to do it, and my answer that I got was 3,534. That's really close to my ballpark estimate of 3,600, so I can be pretty confident that this is correct, that I didn't make any major errors at least. You're going to try this one on your own now. Make your ballpark estimate first, and then you're going to draw this diagram on your board, on your paper, which is going to be 1 square by 3 squares, and separate the numbers, multiply them, add them together, and find your answer. That sounds like a lot, but you can do it. You've just done it once with me, and you can definitely do it again. Pause your video and do that now. For my ballpark estimate, I got approximately 3,600. And then I split my numbers up into 400, 0 because I don't have any 10s, and then 3 1s, and then a 9. So then I multiplied each of them, so 400 times 9 is 3,600, 9 times 0 is 0, and 9 times 3 is 27. Now I'm going to add them together. $3,627. Again, really close to my ballpark estimate, so I can be pretty confident that I'm correct. Okay, now we're talking 2 digits by 2 digits. This gets a little bit trickier, but still 100% doable. We're still going to do our ballpark estimate first, so pause the video and find your ballpark estimate. My ballpark estimate, I changed the 27 to a 30 and the 51 to a 50. So 30 times 50 is 1,500. The next step is to pull apart the two numbers. I'm just going to do that over here so you can see it again. So 20 plus 7, and then 51 is made up of 50 plus 1. And then the other problems, we did 2 digits or 3 digits by 1 digit. Now we're doing 2 digits by 2 digits, so we have more numbers to deal with. We're going to put our 20 and our 7 up here. It's important that they stay together. And then we're going to put our 50 and our 1 down here. Again, it's important that those two numbers stay together because they make up the same number. Now, if I were to mix that up, let's just say I did 20, and then I put the 1 over here, and then I did the 50 and the 7. That would mean that I would end up multiplying 20 times 7. That wouldn't get me the answer because at no point am I supposed to be multiplying 20 times 7. This is saying 27 times 51. So we can't multiply the two numbers that make up one of the factors together because that would just mess everything up. So I'm going to get rid of that so we don't get messed up. Now you're going to pause your video and you're going to multiply each of these numbers together. So 20 times 50, 20 times 1, 50 times 7, and 1 times 7. Do you see how those match up? So you drag your finger in each box to find out which ones match up. Just like that. Okay, pause your video and multiply those now. So you should have gotten 50 times 20 is 1,000, 50 times 7 is 350, 20 times 1 is 20, and 1 times 7 is 7. Now those are our partial products, so we're going to add them up. Pause your video and add those 4 numbers together. I got 1,377. That's really close to my estimate, so I can be pretty confident that it's correct. We're going to do another one now, and this one you're going to do a little bit more on your own. So why don't you draw this diagram on your paper with the 4 boxes? Go ahead and do that now. We're going to do another one together now, and you are going to find the ballpark estimate first, as we always do. So pause your video and do that now. My estimate ended up being about 5,000 because I made the 95 at 100 and the 48 at 50, which 100 times 50 is 5,000. So now what I'm going to have you do is draw this diagram of 2 squares by 2 squares on your paper. Okay, and now we're going to pull apart the numbers. So pause your video, pull apart the numbers, and then put them along the diagram where they belong. Remember, it's extremely important that you keep the digits that are in the same number along the same side of the diagram. So 90 and 5 come from the same number, so those need to stay together. 40 and 8 come from the same number, so those need to stay together. Now you're going to pause your video and multiply each number by the other number. Go ahead and do that now. The 4 partial products that you should have gotten are 3,600 or 3,600, 200, 720, and 40. Now we're going to add those up, so pause your video and do that now. I got 4,560, which is pretty close to 5,000, so I can be pretty confident that I'm correct. The next one you're going to do completely on your own. You're going to find the ballpark estimate, and then you're going to draw your diagram. I haven't drawn it for you, so you need to figure out how you're going to draw it. You're going to pull apart the number, put it in the diagram where it belongs, multiply, add, and then you have your answer. Sounds like a lot again, but you can definitely do it. Pause your video and do that now. Your answer should be 1,856. Go ahead and look over what I've done. I should have put an addition sign there. And see if everything looks the same as what you did. And if you have the same answer as me, then fantastic. If not, go through and make sure that you put the numbers on the correct part of the diagram, that you multiplied correctly, and that you added correctly. Your answer should be 1,856. You're going to do a few more now that are practice problems on your own, and some of them are going to be 2 digits, some might include 3 digits. You can do it. So make sure you go through all the steps, including the ballpark estimate. Pause your video and work on this one. On this one, you should have gotten 510, which is close to the ballpark estimate I made of 600. Now, one thing that may have caught you on this is that here you still have to put 30. I almost wrote 3 because I knew I was going to be putting the 0 here, and that said to me 30. But remember, we're pulling apart the numbers, so this number really says 30, 10, or 3 10s plus 0 1s. So you have to make sure that you keep the values correct. The next one is 261 times 22. Pause your video and solve it now. The answer is 5,742. And that's relatively close to my ballpark estimate of 5,200. And I had to do 3 boxes by 2 boxes because this was a 3-digit number by a 2-digit number, but I still separated it just the same as I've been doing. Let's try another one. 308 times 76. Pause your video and do that now. Your answer for this one should be 23,408, which is really close to my ballpark estimate of 24,000. Now, remember, when you have a 0, you still should be putting that in there so you don't forget about it. It's important that you do that. This one's going to be really challenging. It's a 3-digit by 3-digit number. Try your very best to solve it. I really have confidence in you that you'll be able to. Pause your video and do that now. Phew, that was a lot of numbers, but the answer is 551,994, which is pretty close to my ballpark estimate. And look at that. If you were having trouble making the boxes, it's going to be 3 by 3, so that we can have each digit up here and each digit along the side as well. We're going to move on to a couple of word problems now that use multiplication. So let's say a tractor trailer company is looking to replace the tires on 54 of their trucks. Each truck has 18 wheels. They need to know how many tires they'll need to purchase. So 54 trucks need new tires. There are 18 tires on each truck. So how many are they going to need? Pause the video and try and figure that out now. You're going to need 972 tires. Now I found that, and it's close to my ballpark estimate, so I'm fairly certain it's correct. And I found that because I know that I'm going to have to do 54 times 18, because that's going to tell me I need 54 sets of 18 tires to be able to replace them all. So going along with this problem, the same tractor trailer company is now looking to order the tires. Each tire costs $469. How much will they have to spend to buy enough tires for all 54 trucks? So you're going to have to use the number of tires that we just calculated and multiply that by the cost of each tire. All right, so pause the video and do that now. The answer is that it would cost $25,326, which is close to my estimate of $23,500. So you just solved 2 difficult word problems, and you got really good at using the partial products algorithm. That's going to help you a lot in the next lesson to help you understand the traditional algorithm, which basically is partial products, but condensed, taking out some of these steps that take up so much space and so much time. So let's find out what the thinking question is for this lesson. When do you find that it is worth your time to make a ballpark estimate? Think about that between now and the next lesson, and I'll give you my thoughts. Bye!